Welcome back to Zach's in the Shop. I am Zach, and this is my shop where I love to be, and I love to test tools, and that's what brings me to this video. Matter of fact, one of the commenters from a previous video and a whole bunch of people in the latest poll wanted me to test the HyperTough 12-volt inflator. Now, it's an odd tool. I wouldn't have expected HyperTough to come up with one of these in a million years, but HyperTough has proven to be sort of an odd duck here lately. They come up with a whole bunch of different things I never thought I'd see them do, and one of them is this cordless digital inflator. So I'm going to take this cordless digital inflator, we're going to look and see what's all in this box here, and we're going to compare it with this bad boy, the Skil PwrCore 12 inflator. This seems to be a comparable type inflator. It's 12 volts. It's lower priced. It's not as low as the HyperTough, but it's, you know, close. So close enough for our testing. So let's take a look at these bad boys. So just from the box here, we can see that it comes with a 20-inch air hose, has integrated storage so you won't have a whole bunch of stuff dangling off of it. It says that the maximum pressure is 140 psi, rated power is 80 watts and 10 amps. Product weight is 2.2 pounds, but we'll measure it too. So that's 3-year warranty right here. I'm not quite sure how good that warranty works. And you can see there's a digital display on top of it. We have one 1.5 amp hour battery, one painful, awful slow charger, but I mean it's 40 bucks. What do we expect? We have the Welcome to the Family book that has all the other different stuff. Let's see if there's any stuff on here we don't know about. I'd like to have that light, and that light too. I don't know why, but I'd like to have that light. Maybe the laser level. More instructions. And here it is right here. We have our 20-inch hose. Nothing too overly built well here with the hose. Then we have our accessories on the back for blowing up your play ball or your soccer ball or whatever kind of ball you want to blow up. We'll go ahead and put this battery in. All the HyperTough batteries seems like they're already charged when you get them. Have to hold this down for a while. Maybe I do. Yeah, there it is. I'll go put this battery on the charger. And then we have our Skil here. Skil has so little security, they don't even tape over where the little tab is on the box. Man, Skil don't care at all. We have our nice Skil instruction manual. And here is our Skil inflator. Same sort of buttons on it. Same sort of little attachments for blowing up your play balls and your soccer balls and whatever. Looks like the Skil hose might even be a little bit longer. The Skil inflator weighs 2.4 pounds. The HyperTough is much lighter at 1.8 pounds. When I measure these, I'm going to consider them a cube for storage. Basically what that means is whatever measurement across, deep, and tall, I'm just going to treat it like a cube because you have to store this thing somewhere if you're going to use it like in your car. So I want to make sure that you get the idea of how much space is going to take up. The Skil is 5 5/8 inches across, 5 5/8 inches deep, and 7 5/8 inches tall. The HyperTough is an interesting case because it has the cord coming out the end and it doesn't easily store. So we're going to have to factor in how far this cord comes out as well. You can let me know in the comments what you think about that. I am going to factor this in to the total size. The HyperTough is 9 7/8 long. It is 3 1/4 inches wide. That's taking into account how far the tip sticks out and a little bit of this curvature over here, which is going to be hard to press into position. The HyperTough is 6 3/8 inches tall. The HyperTough comes with these 4 various connectors for inflating different items. This is how the various tips are stored on the HyperTough. It seems like a decent way to store them, although these are plastic tabs that they're wedged inside. I can definitely see these tabs getting weak over time, either breaking off or becoming loose and not being able to hold these items. These 3 accessories are stored on the Skil, very similar to the HyperTough, except that the HyperTough has 2 of these style inflation nozzles instead of the one that the Skil has. The Skil accessories are stored on the side in a similar way that the HyperTough accessories are stored. I have the same concerns that one of these plastic tabs will either weaken or break over time. Only time will tell on that. That is just a concern that I would have initially looking at it. Of the two inflators, I prefer how the Skil hose is stored. It is wrapped around here tightly. It doesn't protrude out the actual footprint of the Skil inflator. It does stick out the bottom here, but it is not sticking so far that it would hit if you set it down. So I do prefer that. The HyperTough protrudes out like this, which I can see as being a hazard for just knocking it against something or making it slightly more difficult to store, or creating a situation where you're going to kind of push this and hit it and break it off or something like that. The HyperTough does have a light on the front. The Skil does not have that, and we'll test that a little bit later to see how bright it is. So I'm outside at my house and I have the HyperTough here, and we're going to turn that little light on, see how well it works. I have my heart light on. It's about 2,000 lumens and it works really, really well. But I have a feeling that this is not going to be 2,000 lumens. So let's see how it works. All right, hit our light button. Our light is on, so I'm going to walk away from our super bright light, see how we do. It is night. Well, it's not bad. Not too awful bad. No, it's actually a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. So enough to kind of look around in your car. And if you have to pull over or something, oh my God, there's a cat. If you have to pull over or something, you'll be okay with this, I think. Display actually looks pretty cool at night. I'm back here at the back of my property near my shop, and I'm gonna set it up to blink. And I'm gonna walk to the front of my property, so at least 150 feet away or so. We'll see how it would look to oncoming traffic. The daggone heart lights up the entire area. I have about an acre here, so the whole center of my yard lit up by the heart. Pretty impressive, really. I've made it back out here to the road. Let's turn around and see if we see it. I'll put my light down here. We can definitely see it. I think that'd be a pretty helpful thing to have in like a roadside kit for your car. So to summarize, the tool weight of the HyperTough is a little bit less than the Skil. HyperTough's 1.8 pounds. The Skil is 2.4 pounds. As far as how much room the tools take up, the HyperTough comes in at 205 cubic inches, and that's taken into account that hose, compared to the Skil, which is still larger, at 241 cubic inches. In this test, I'm going to use each inflator to pump air into this 5-gallon air tank. We're going to give them 5 minutes and track their progress on how much air they can fit into this tank, especially as it gets higher and higher pressure. How well do they do against that pressure? 5 minutes, if they can last that long, hopefully they can. And we're going to use the smallest battery possible with each one. For the Skil, that's a 2 amp hour. For the HyperTough, it's going to be the 1.5 amp hour. I'm setting the Skil on 125 PSI because that is the working pressure of the air tank. So we're at 55.5 on the Skil. So we look like we're right around 53 or so on the Job Smart gauge. And that's what we're going to go by because it's the constant in all the tests. So 53, we're going to let everything cool off and disconnect, and then we'll try the HyperTough. We have our HyperTough inflator with our 1.5 amp hour battery in the back of it. Looks like the HyperTough has 4 modes here. It has car, motorcycle, or Sea-Doo or something. I don't know if a Sea-Doo has tires, so bicycle, and sports ball. So we're going to go to none of them, which is good. It means I can hopefully, can I set it up any higher than 60? Yes. If I set it on certain ones, looks like it tops out at a certain PSI measurement. but I want to just take it up to the max, just in case this thing starts to run wild, which I'm sure it will. So we have it on 125, so we're about to rock and roll here. I didn't read the instructions on this thing, but there is no button that really says start. So maybe that's the power button we hit. This is mode, plus or minus, we adjust how many PSI. Of course, we have our light button. Oh, warning, that's handy. I'm gonna go with power button, let's see how we do on that. It says we're at 52 on the Hyper Tough, and it looks like that's exactly where we are on the gauge, right at 52. So pretty daggone close between the Hyper Tough and the Skil. So the duty cycle on our little Hyper Tough inflator is 10 minutes. That means it can run for 10 minutes, then it has to cool down. So we're gonna run this sucker for 10 minutes. We'll see how much pressure we build up. But what I'm really gonna test is how hot it is right down here where the outlet is from the compressor into the hose. We don't want it to get too hot down there where it starts damaging components, so I'm kind of curious how much heat we can build up in that 10-minute run time. All right, we have 85 PSI. We're down to 2 bars on top of our inflator. Looks like we're at just about 85 on the gauge up here. Let's see how hot we're getting. So the Hyper Tough made it up to 156.2. Now the Skil has a duty cycle of 15 minutes, but we'll check in on it at 10 minutes as well just to compare. We're gonna go ahead and get started. We have a 10-minute timer we'll go with, and then another 5-minute timer to let it run out. But let's go ahead and rock and roll. Well, we stopped a little bit shy right there. Looks like about 13.5 minutes because I guess the battery is low. We'll test that in just a minute. So we didn't make it to 15 minutes on the battery. And our highest temperature at 13.5 minutes, or the final moment there, was 140.2. Battery is depleted. At the 5-minute mark in our 5-gallon air tank, the Skil made it to 53 PSI, and the Hyper Tough was very close at 52 PSI. At the 10-minute mark, the Skil gained ground against the Hyper Tough. The Skil was at 95 PSI, and the Hyper Tough was at 85 PSI. During that 5-minute test, I measured the decibel level of each tool, and the Hyper Tough was the loudest of the two tools, coming in at 88 decibels, as opposed to the Skil having only 84 decibels. I'm sitting out here next to my GMC truck, kind of simulate tire being low. I'm gonna let some of the air out the tire down to around 20 PSI, and we're gonna see how long it takes each one of these inflators to pump it up to 35 PSI. All right, we are at 20 PSI, starting now. All right, there we go. Now a couple things. The hose is just barely long enough. If the tire was a little bit bigger, wouldn't be able to set it on the ground like this. These tires aren't that big. And stability is a little bit of an issue because you see has a pretty narrow footprint, so it's gonna kind of want to tip over, especially if it's walking around vibrating. So that might be a little bit of an issue too. Got up to 35, lost 1 bar of this 1.5 amp battery. So let's see how the Skil does. Our Skil's at 20. We're gonna set the target up to 35. All right, it's 20.5, so it's pretty close. And let's get started and see how the old Skil does. All right, well, there we go with the Skil. So the Skil is much more stable. Obviously, the footprint's much bigger. It's divided a lot better. You're not gonna have a bunch of walking and leaning really bad. The hose looks like it reached a little bit better. There's some on the back here, so there is room to spare on the hose. So I think overall the Skil's a little bit better at this particular task right here. We'll wait and see how the times work out. But as far as how it sits and a little bit of accessibility stuff, looks like the Skil's a little bit better. I didn't have any issues reading the displays, although it's a cloudy day and not a bright sunny day today. And of course, we need to blow up a sports ball to 10 PSI because that's what a lot of people are going to use this for. So let's see both of these real quick, blowing up a sports ball. This is a size 5 soccer ball that is rated for up to 10.2 PSI. So I'm going to set it at 10 and we're going to blow it up. Then I'll deflate it and blow it up with the Skil. We'll see which one is faster. In the first of our final tests, which are real world tests, I filled the tire from 20 PSI to 35 PSI. HyperTough came in at 311 seconds, and the Skil was a little bit faster at 303 seconds. When it came to the soccer ball, the Skil was actually much faster, coming in at 24 seconds, as opposed to the HyperTough at 32 seconds. So it appears that the HyperTough is just a little bit less powerful than the Skil. Now let's take a look at our rankings for all our cordless inflators, which are these two so far, but we're building a list and it should grow as time goes by. We have the Skil, the model number is IF5943-00. The HyperTough is the 80036. They're both a nominal 12-volt DC tool, and Skil is a little bit heavier than the HyperTough, 2.4 pounds compared to 1.8. That receives a score of 50 for the HyperTough and 38 for the Skil. We move on to the 5-minute PSI test with the 5-gallon air tank. The Skil had 53 PSI at the end of the test. The HyperTough was really close at 52. Therefore, we have a score of 100 for the Skil, but the HyperTough gets a 98 because they're so close. At the 10-minute mark, the Skil had widened the gap a little bit to 95 PSI compared to 85 from the HyperTough, and that gives the Skil a 100 score compared to the HyperTough's 89. The decibel level for the Skil was a little bit quieter than the HyperTough, 84 decibels for the Skil, 88 for the HyperTough. That brings a score of 25 for the Skil and 20 for the HyperTough. So while those scores are weighted a little bit less, they're still important enough to include on this ranking. As far as the temperature of the discharge at 10 minutes, the HyperTough was significantly hotter than the Skil, 156 degrees Fahrenheit compared to 139. That gives the Skil a score of 100 compared to 89 for the HyperTough. I included the duty cycle because I think that's an important thing to take into account, that the Skil could actually do 5 more minutes of work at any one interval compared to a lot of the other inflators. So because the Skil gets 15 minutes of duty cycle, it gets a score of 50. The HyperTough only gets 10. It gets a score of 33. Moving over to price, the HyperTough is easy to price because it comes as a kit, $43, which gives it a score of 25. But for the Skil, it's a little bit more difficult to price because it doesn't come as a kit. Now the Inflator is $49, and you can get any number of combinations for around $49. Right now, as I looked at the Lowe's website, there was a battery and charger you can get for $49, and a lot of times you can actually get a tool battery and charger. So you could actually get like a drill battery and charger for $49. So there's a number of different combinations. The best I seen was $49, which gives it $99 basically, and a score of 11. Adding up all the scores, the Skil comes out on top at 424 over the HyperTough's 404. And remember that these scores are relative. So as we add more inflators to the list, the scores will adapt and change based on which ones are better and worse. So it won't always be 424 to 404. If a much better inflator comes in, they may both go down compared to that inflator, and vice versa if that next inflator is much worse. So make sure to stay tuned as we add more things to all the lists I'm making. Give me feedback on what you'd like to see me cover, whether that be grinders, which I think we're going to do grinders next because I ran into a great deal on some comparison grinders for the new HyperTough brushless. So we're likely to see grinders very soon. And then the hammer drill, guys have been requesting that, so that's coming up very soon. Put in the comments what you want to see. I hope you enjoyed the video. Put a like on it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And God bless each and every one of you. And I'll see you guys on the next one.